What's up everybody? I'm 3D printing a remote control YF-23 in my basement and I want you to follow along. So I've got about 80% of the pieces done here and they're looking a little bit rough. There's a lot of little boogers, there's a lot of little bits. I've sanded some of them a little bit. I've got some carbon fiber rods I'm going to use to glue these pieces together. I'm 3D printing this on my Anycubic i3 Mega and the print bed is actually a little bit too small for the files that I got. So I've scaled down all of the pieces 80%, which I think makes a pretty manageable RC plane. Right now the plane is 32 inches nose to tail, and I think it's going to make for a pretty manageable and transportable jet. Before we get going, here's a little story time about the YF-23. So in 1978, the US first spotted a Soviet Su-27 and a MiG-29. The Air Force said, oh boy, we better start making a new plane. So in 1991, the US Air Force put out a request for designs for some new fighters. These were going to replace the F-15 Eagle. In 1985, the Air Force issued a formal request for proposal. Now, this is when a couple different aerospace companies would say, hey, this is the type of fighter we think we could make, these are going to be its designs, these will be some of its specs, and the Air Force is going to down select from there. The next year, several companies put out their proposals, put out their responses to this proposal, and in '86, Lockheed and Northrop were selected as the two finalists. They were going to actually build these prototypes and put them head to head. So finally, in 1990, the first YF-23 was rolled out onto the airstrip. After testing, the YF-23 sadly lost the proposal to what later became the Lockheed F-22. I think that this airplane looks so cool, it deserves another chance to fly. Also, if you're curious, I found these 3D files on Cults from a designer named RAH3, R-A-H-3. The plans were 25 bucks. I'm super happy with the plans. I'm not really happy with my 3D printer. There's another one in the mail. You'll see a video on that shortly. But so far so good. The original design is a little bit larger since I had to scale it down. There are plans on how the pieces fit together, where the carbon fiber rods go. The designer also recommends specific size EDFs to go in here, capacity of a battery, things like that. So it's plenty enough for me to get going, and I'm excited to continue this project. I originally found this designer because I was looking for a Dark Star RC model to 3D print. But I saw in their designs here, and the designs look great by the way, I saw in the description that they actually hadn't flown this plane yet. And designing my own Arduino with flight controls is something that I do want to make a project on eventually. But for my first 3D printed plane, I wanted to give myself a little bit better chances of success than a Dark Star that no one's actually flown before. I am planning on diving into that project too, so let me know if that's something that you want to see. But yeah, RAH3, great job so far. I hope to get this bird actually in the air. So, let's get into it. So here's a close-up view on the jet here. I've got most of the pieces printed out. None of them are actually put together yet. I've got a lot of sanding to do still. Very nice. Alright, so the first step is going to be joining these 6 fuselage pieces together. Inside each of these pieces, for example, there's a little hole that runs through the center of all of them. And through that hole, we're going to put this carbon fiber rod. I brought a couple 3D printed pieces to the store. Everybody thought I was weird, but I made sure that this rod fits pretty snugly through all of these pieces. So what I'll probably have to do, after cutting it down to the right length, is go through with a drill and basically clean up all of these holes, because my 3D printer leaves just a little bit to be desired working with this filament. Now, I have done 3D printing with lightweight PLA before. That's what we're using here. And it's just always leaves little bits. It's very prone to stringing. I printed the exact same files, not this piece, but an airfoil section that I designed in SolidWorks. And the regular PLA is just so much cleaner. Even with, the nozzle picking up and trying to do a little bit of retracting and coming back down, there's just always a little bit of, well, always a lot actually, of, just little bits that get stuck. So there's a lot of cleanup here. It's part of the process, I guess. If anybody has tips on how to get your lightweight PLA to behave, please let me know, because I am just a struggling RC modeler right over here. Yeah, so I'm gonna get a little drill bit. We're gonna clean up all these pieces, and we'll try to get this fuselage together. For anybody curious, the carbon fiber rod that I get is 0.198 inches outer diameter. Inner diameter doesn't really matter, and it's 24 inches long. I think I need about 21 inches for this middle section here, so I'll trim that down a little bit. Just doing a little bit of math, this outer diameter is right in between 3/16 and 13/64 of a drill bit. I'm going to start with 3/16, I'm going to just wiggle a little bit, see how that goes. Okay, here we go. I mean, yeah, I mean that's definitely smaller than the hole, and that's pretty good. That's a very tight fit. I definitely wouldn't even need glue. I am worried about this long center section here, so we'll see. I might use a combo of both pieces, but I could probably just do pressure fit on most of these. Yeah, but there's a lot of little bits. There's a lot of little bits all in the middle here. So if you're doing the same, you'll definitely want to clean out this inside hole. See, that's just not going to cut it. I don't want to go crazy. That's better. That is better. I think it's just going to be a lot of fiddling. Tap, 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 tap. Alright, let's try the larger bit. Oh, that's what we're doing. It's still a little bit snug, and I don't know how because it's actually larger, but that's what we'll use. Let's speed this up. Actually, I'm worried about melting it, so yeah, we'll just keep going slow. Alright, and let's see. Oh, perfect. Alright, so I'm just going to drill out the holes for the rest of these pieces here, and then we will start joining stuff together. You're done. You're done. Something else to keep in mind before you start joining these sections together, I don't know if you can see, let me get out of the way here, there's a whole bunch of spider web, a whole bunch of little spider webs that are going on inside there, and they're gonna be a little tricky to get rid of completely, but I'm gonna try to clean out as best I can the insides of all the pieces that are come along with the duct before I glue everything together, just so that it's a little bit easier. This last piece, because of how I printed it, I needed some support structures. That was a mistake. The supports printed just as strong as the rest of it. So I've got some supports inside this hole here. Do-da-do. Snippy snip. Oh no! Catastrophe! So, I don't know how far this was supposed to go in. It seems like none at all. So, yeah, be careful. Jeez. Deburring time. So I guess this just needs to go in like, just tiny bit just for glue. Cool, good to know. All right, I have sanded out all of the interior sections, all of that ducting in there, as much as I'm happy with, and I've done a dry fit on this carbon fiber rod, and it looks like it's going to add a lot of strength. I'm very happy with, since I had to scale down this model, I was a little bit worried that the carbon fiber rod would be too thin, but I think it's going to work out great. So I've just done a dry fit here. I've got a bunch of super glue. I'm going to start gluing these pieces up. I'm going to trim this carbon fiber piece at the very end because it just needs to go a little bit into here. And I don't want to come out with a tiny bit too much or a tiny bit too little. So I'm going to glue these pieces up and then we'll have our fuselage. Now that we're ready to cut this carbon fiber rod here, we need to talk PPE. All right, I'm going to use my Dremel here. Get your glasses. I'm pretty sure carbon fiber bits are super bad to breathe in. So please use the right stuff. Keep yourself safe because you can't hobby if you're sick or you're dead. We've got these bits here, and basically where these go are going to be, can you see that? It's completely washed out. These pieces glue on right on the tail section, right there, and then that gives the rest of the attachment point for the two tail surfaces. So that's what we're working with. So let's glue these on. And then I guess we're ready for wings at that point. That's exciting. Now that the main fuselage is done, I printed off a couple more pieces in regular PLA, not lightweight PLA. These two pieces right here help join the fuselage to the spar of the wing. They slot in this little cutout right here. They do slot in this cutout right here. And then there's a little hole right in there. There's a little hole right in there, and that's where the carbon spar is going to go out to the wingtip. So this goes in the fuselage, this goes in the little adapter piece, and then we've got the wing comes in two pieces right here. This is the right wing. And there's also the control surface that comes off of here. I'm planning on making both ailerons and flaps, but I'll show you from the underside. They're going to connect just like that. There's a little extra wingtip piece that goes on, and then we've got the control surface that comes on behind it. So it's going to be a little bit of work getting the There's a little cutout. There's a little curve. There's a little curve cut out here on both of the pieces, and they make a half circle that's going to go around the spar. They're a tiny bit too small, so I'm just going to give it some attention with sandpaper and try to get these two pieces to fit really nicely in there, like that. So just a little bit more sanding, and then we'll get to gluing. All right, I've done a couple more cuts to the carbon spar to get them to fit in here. And I've put on the couple wing pieces so far. Still got the ailerons to do and the flaps. I believe in the video on Raw 3's Colts 3D website, there's a video of the airplane flying. I believe the entire control surface is just one piece and that they act as ailerons. I'm going to, what I'd like to do is they come in 3 sections, and the third closest to the root I'm going to have be flaps, and then the other 2 will be ailerons. Now it probably would give me a little bit more lift if I turn these into flaperons, but honestly I don't know how to do the mixing for that. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to leave it as flaps and ailerons. Ooh, the super glue here hasn't dried yet, and the fumes are getting me in the eyeballs. Anyway, here's what we've got so far. I'm pretty excited about this. I really, really like how these curves, these three curves, fit together on the top of the plane. I think that looks just so cool. Aside from control surfaces, there's not much left. The canopy comes in 3 pieces. I'm going to glue that together next, and then the you know, the elevators slash rudders, ruddervators, the ruddervators go on next. Stabilators. What is it? Those are going to go on next. I believe they're designed to be have the front part fixed and the rear part moving, just like a regular rudder would. But I was watching some videos, and they're actually full flying on the real aircraft. So I'm interested to see if I can come up with a way to, you know, make that a reality, make these full flying. That would just really complete the look. I'm also interested in looking into some, what do you call it? Slats and flats. I'm also interested in looking into putting some slats on the aircraft, and I might even put them in fixed. Like I could just add on, you know, a strip here that's angled downwards, and it won't be great for drag, but maybe I could even make them magnetized so I could try it with and without the slats. It would just be a couple holes in the leading edge and just really an extra strip. And yeah, again, that wouldn't be the most drag efficient, but it would get me more lift, and that's the main thing that I'm concerned with this aircraft, is the weight to wing area just being so high that it's going to need to get a lot of speed to get off the ground and to keep flying, which is just going to mean that, you know, I'm not the best RC pilot out there, and so that just means that there's less time really to correct anything. I'm not expecting everything to go perfect first flight, but I am going to keep on printing these planes until I get it pretty good. So, anyway, yeah, thanks for watching along so far. Pew. Okay, new day, new update. Here's where we're at so far. So, the fuselage is put together. The wings are on. The wingtip pieces are on. Here's where the control surface goes. There's some little pieces by the engine nozzles that still need to go on. The canopy is printed. It's just not on here yet. And there's some pieces on the bottom that need to go on as well. Now, I don't know if you can tell what the print quality looks like. There's definitely some bits inside. There's definitely some bits inside that need to be cleaned up. Definitely got, you know, some ridges, some ringing going on. There's just some little pigtails really all over the whole piece. I've sanded down a good chunk of them. But here's where we're at. I need your help. I want you guys to let me know, should I continue finishing this 80% model, at least get to the point where I could put a small battery, some servos in it. I could either tow it up or drop it from another RC plane and at least test out a glide test. That'll help me get a sense for the flight characteristics. I am not used to flying a plane like this, and you know, the less time that I spend on this, if I spike into the ground, I'm going to be a little bit less worried. Option B is continue working on this. Now, I don't know if you can tell scale-wise. They're about the same depth there. This is printed at 100%. There's a new printer down here in the 3D printing dungeon. It's working right now, you can probably hear it. I'm gonna do another video on the new printer hiding off camera later, but for now, I've been working through and reprinting the same exact pieces, trying to get the finish of the pieces a lot better than how it was before. And I'll just do a little comparison here. So here is nose cone. here's the nose cone from the piece that's printed out now. Hopefully that's focused. There's a lot of bits there. There's a lot of extra stringing, and to be fair, I did print 2 pieces at a time with this. There was this piece and another piece on the build plate. I think the other piece that was facing this was the bottom of the second part of the fuselage. But you can see right there, there's quite some bits, quite a few pieces hanging off there. And this is nose cone 2 on the other printer. It is way smoother. There were almost no pieces that I had to sand. Here's another example. I'll actually show you. You can see inside here. It's almost perfect the way that it's coming out. I'm printing these pieces. I'm printing this new version with a hexagon infill. I figured that a hexagon is made up of triangles, and a triangle is the strongest shape, and the hexagon tubes basically run from nose to tail for these prints, because they print on the print bed like this. So it draws out hexagons on the build plate, and if you can imagine an extruded hexagon at the top. I'll show you a picture that helps describe it even better. Here's a failed piece. I ran out of filament and I couldn't figure out how to work the replacement filament. It does pause when it runs out of filament, and it lets you replace the filament. Point being, it was user error. It was me. But that's the infill that we're doing on these pieces, and they are way stiffer. They're definitely heavier, but I've noticed a couple things. So the first one is, I need to talk about the filament that I'm using. So, a lot of filaments that you use for 3D printed airplanes that are lightweight filaments, the filament foams as it comes out of the nozzle, and that's what makes it lightweight. The foaming filament is cool and kind of stinks because of the same thing. Because it foams, the important thing to note is that it foams differently. The volume increases as the temperature increases. So if you print a little bit cooler, it's going to foam a little bit less. There'll be less air bubbles in there, and you're going to get a heavier but stronger print. The hotter you print it, the more it's going to foam. A lot of people have to get around this foaming filament because when you do a retraction, it completely messes up the print. And so people will have to spiralize their prints as a way to get around this foaming filament. Now, I found a filament. Now, I want to be clear, I have not used that foaming filament before, but I've did a little bit of research because that sounded like it sucked, and this is what I came up with. So I'm using a filament from Polymaker. It's called Polylite, L-I-T-E, lightweight PLA, LW-PLA. The reason this filament is different is they say that it's pre-foamed, so it's already got the air bubbles in there. And when you print it, it doesn't do as much expanding. For that Polylite, I found that the normal settings for the foaming PLA do not work great. The normal settings for the foaming PLA have something like, between 50 to 70% extrusion ratio. That's, how much is it actually spitting out? Because it foams, you spit out a lot less than you normally would with the PLA. That's with the foaming filament. If you use those low extrusion rate they're usually in a percentage in your slicer. If you use that with this Polylite lightweight PLA, you get stuff like this. This printed basically a whole bunch of holes in this tail section here. Not because it ran out of filament, but just because I was extruding at about 50% what I should have. So this is a piece that, is a bummer. And yeah, just a nice lesson to learn right there, that if you're using this pre-foamed Polylite filament, you're going to want to extrude closer to 100%. Now, I've printed these pieces at 100%. These pieces are about at 50. I can squeeze these pieces and feel it's almost like cardstock, the surface of this print, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit concerned about strength-wise. I do have carbon fiber spar from nose to tail, and also from about where the fuselage meets the wing, all the way out to the wingtip. I don't know if you can see the little gaps in here. That dark line right there, that's the carbon fiber spar hiding between the two pieces. I'm concerned about the strength of this, especially if I have a rough landing. This is a lot stronger, but it's a lot heavier. I probably have a bit denser infill here with the honeycomb than I do with the gyroid infill here. I think just the way that the shapes shook out. This is 5%. I forget what this is. I think it's somewhere between 3 and 5% gyroid infill. These pieces are definitely heavier. They're definitely going to be stronger. So we'll see comparing the two. Let me know below what your favorite settings are for using lightweight PLA, whether it's foaming or it's not foaming. Also let me know, what do you guys want to see? What do you guys want to see with this model here? Should I turn it into a glider? Should I attach to some bungee cord and shoot it off and test my skills as a pilot? Use this as a practice piece before I get into the real deal? Should I put a little propeller on this thing and have it just a lighter, slower flying model for me to get ready for the big deal? I think I could, if I put a propeller on this, or if I just make it into a glider, I could definitely fly this size model at a park. This size model, with the full EDFs in it, I really think that I'm gonna need to bring it to my local RC airfield to have any confident chance of recovering the aircraft after I get into the air. So that's the update for now. I appreciate you guys sitting along with me, working on this fun RC hobby stuff. Let me know what you're working on. Have a great rest of your day.